When your SQL statements, and in particular your select statements, get complex and less readable due to numerous expressions in your select statement, you can assign column aliases. I'll go through a few scenarios where our column aliases are desirable, if not required. The syntax for using an alias is straightforward. The slide shows the select syntax and where you put the alias, if any. I'm going to demonstrate how aliases work with a couple of examples. This query shows an employee's formatted last name, their salary, and their salary with a 20% raise. I go ahead and run it. And the output's right, but the column names are not very descriptive. I'll take the same query, but I'll add aliases to each of the expressions. I'll use full name for the first expression, and I'll use proposed salary for the second expression, and I'll put it on another line. I press on F9. Looks much better. Columns much more descriptive. Notice how a SQL developer color codes column aliases automatically. Very useful. And the output is much more readable and descriptive. Column aliases go beyond just column header naming. You can also use them in other clauses. For example, I can reference column aliases in the order by clause. I'll use the proposed salary alias in the order by. Copy the current query, paste it down below, and I'll put an order by in. Order by proposed salary. Go ahead and run it. And the output is ordered by proposed salary. What if I want to put an alias I defined in the select clause in the where clause to check for proposed salaries higher than $2,500? I'll go ahead and copy this query that I just ran, Control-C, paste it down below, try to add a where clause in the right place, where proposed salary greater than $2,500. I go ahead and try to run it, and I get an error message. I can't use an alias in the where clause. Let's look at the opposite requirement. When must you use a column alias? In this example, I'm creating a table that contains the result set from a query. This is known as CTAS, or Create Table as Select. I'll go ahead and paste that in. Notice that the first line is Create Table, Table Name, As, and then there's a query. I'll go ahead and try to run it. That also gets an error message. It's an Aura 00998. The explanation is clear. I must use a column alias so that the destination table has legal column names. When I use a query that is properly aliased, the table creates with no problems and has the contents I want. Let's go ahead and paste that one more time. I'll put a column alias after each of the two expressions. First, an alias for the last name concatenated with the first name, and second, on the salary times 1.2 proposed salary. I go ahead and run that again, and it works just fine. Table employees, proposed salaries created. Here is a list of what aliases are or are not, what they can and cannot do. Aliases are like synonyms, and they can be used for columns or expressions containing columns, or even for expressions that don't reference a column. They enhance the readability of query output. You can reference them in the order by clause, but not in the where clause. Finally, the one case where you must use a column alias is when you use the Create Table as Select feature, and the query you're using to create the table has an expression.